A retired arborist chooses to live in isolation to protect the forest from a greedy businesswoman who wants to build her developments there. One day, he inhales deadly pollen in the forest, triggering a severe asthma attack. His dog desperately tries to save him. The businesswoman finds the arborist fighting for his life, seeing her golden opportunity. With an inscrutable expression, she does something that leaves everyone in tears. In a remote village nestled in the rugged mountains of Montana, the crisp autumn air carries the scent of pine and wild herbs. Golden sunlight filters through the dense canopy of ancient trees, casting dappled shadows on a winding dirt path. This secluded haven, untouched by the relentless march of progress, is home to John Anderson, a retired herbalist whose weathered hands speak volumes of his lifelong dedication to the art of natural healing. John's modest log cabin stands as a testament to simpler times, its weathered wooden exterior blending seamlessly with the surrounding forest. A thin wisp of smoke curls from the chimney, hinting at the warmth within. The porch, adorned with bundles of drying herbs and wind chimes crafted from found objects, offers a picturesque view of the vast wilderness that stretches as far as the eye can see. As the sun begins to set, casting a warm orange glow across the landscape, John emerges from his cabin, his faithful companion Max trotting eagerly at his heels. The bond between man and dog is palpable, a silent understanding forged through years of shared solitude and adventure. In stark contrast to the tranquil scene, a glossy SUV winds its way up the narrow mountain road, its sleek lines and city license plate a jarring reminder of the world beyond the forest. Behind the wheel sits Sarah Thompson, a determined property developer with plans that threaten to forever alter the face of this pristine wilderness. As day fades into night, the stage is set for a clash of values: preservation versus progress, tradition versus change. The fate of this small mountain community hangs in the balance, with John and Max standing as unwitting guardians of a way of life that may soon be lost to time. John Anderson, a man in his late 60s, stands tall despite the years etched on his face. His silver hair and beard, neatly trimmed, frame eyes that sparkle with wisdom and a hint of mischief. Calloused hands and sun-weathered skin tell the story of a life lived close to nature. John moves with a quiet grace, each step purposeful and grounded, reflecting his deep connection to the earth beneath his feet. Beside John, Max, a loyal mixed-breed dog with intelligent brown eyes and a coat the color of autumn leaves, keeps constant vigil. His alert ears and wagging tail betray an unwavering devotion to his human companion. Despite his advancing years, Max maintains a youthful energy, always ready for their daily adventures in the forest. Sarah Thompson, a striking woman in her early 40s, exudes an air of urban sophistication that seems at odds with the rustic surroundings. Her tailored suit and perfectly coiffed hair speak of boardrooms and high-stakes negotiations. Yet beneath her polished exterior lies a complexity. A hint of uncertainty in her eyes betrays an internal struggle between ambition and conscience. The village itself becomes a character, its handful of residents each playing a crucial role in the unfolding drama. There's Tom, the gruff but kind-hearted owner of the general store, whose weathered face has seen generations come and go. Emily, the young schoolteacher with dreams bigger than the small town can contain, finds herself torn between progress and tradition. And old Mrs. Baker, whose family has lived in these mountains for over a century, serves as the town's memory and conscience. ASTHMA. As the story unfolds, we delve deeper into the intricate web of relationships that binds this small community together. John, despite his reclusive nature, is respected and loved by many in the village. His knowledge of herbal remedies has helped countless residents over the years, creating a debt of gratitude that runs deep. Sarah, while initially viewed as an outsider, begins to reveal layers beneath her corporate facade. Her determination stems not just from profit margins, but from a genuine belief that her development project could breathe new life into the struggling town. Yet, as she spends more time in the village, doubts begin to creep in, challenging her convictions. Max, more than just a pet, becomes a bridge between John and the rest of the community. His friendly demeanor and unwavering loyalty make him a beloved figure in the village, often serving as an icebreaker in tense situations. The forest itself emerges as a silent but powerful presence, its ancient trees and hidden glades holding secrets that only John seems to truly understand. It's a living, breathing entity that responds to the threat of development with subtle shifts in its ecosystem, as if rallying to its own defense. As tensions rise, we see the villagers grappling with their own beliefs and loyalties. Families find themselves divided, long-standing friendships are tested, and the very fabric of the community begins to fray. Each character must confront their own values and decide what truly matters in the face of irreversible change. On a crisp autumn evening, as the sun dips below the mountain peaks, John sets out for his usual walk with Max. The air is thick with the scent of pine and a hint of wood smoke from distant chimneys. As they venture deeper into the forest, John notices an unusual plant with vibrant purple flowers he's never seen before. Intrigued, he leans in to examine it more closely. Suddenly, a gust of wind scatters the plant's pollen into the air. John inhales sharply, his eyes widening in surprise. Within moments, he feels his chest tightening, his breath becoming labored. Recognizing the onset of a severe asthma attack, John fumbles for his inhaler, only to realize he's left it at home. Panic sets in as John struggles to breathe, each gasp more painful than the last. Max, sensing his master's distress, begins to whine and bark urgently. As John collapses to his knees, the gravity of the situation becomes clear. He's alone in the woods, far from help, with only his faithful dog by his side. In that moment, the serene forest transforms into a backdrop for a life-and-death struggle, setting in motion a chain of events that will test the bonds of loyalty, community, and the very future of the village. As John fights for breath on the forest floor, Max's instincts kick into high gear. The loyal dog begins to bark frantically, his desperate cries echoing through the trees. He alternates between nudging John, trying to rouse him, and running a short distance away, looking back as if urging his master to follow. John, barely conscious, manages to whisper a weak command: "Go, get help." With one last whimper, Max tears off through the underbrush, his paws pounding the earth as he races back to the village. His mind, driven by an unwavering devotion, is focused on a single goal: to save his beloved owner. Meanwhile, in the village, Sarah Thompson is holding a town meeting in the local community center. The room is tense, filled with conflicting emotions as she outlines her plans for developing the area. Some villagers, like Emily the school teacher, are cautiously optimistic about the potential for new jobs and improved infrastructure. Others, including old Mrs. Baker, voice their concerns about losing the town's character and natural beauty. As the debate heats up, Tom from the general store stands up, his voice gruff but sincere. "I've known John Anderson for 40 years, he says. He's done more for this community with his herbs and his kindness than any fancy development ever could." His words resonate with many in the room, causing Sarah to falter slightly in her presentation. Just then, Max bursts through the door of the community center, barking frantically and running in circles. The room falls silent, all eyes on the distressed dog. Emily is the first to react, recognizing that something is terribly wrong. "That's John's dog," she exclaims. "Something must have happened to John." The atmosphere in the room shifts instantly from contentious debate to shared concern. Even Sarah, momentarily setting aside her business agenda, looks alarmed. As the villagers begin to mobilize, Max's desperate plea for help serves as a powerful reminder of the deep connections that bind their community together, transcending the divisions that moments ago seemed insurmountable. As the reality of John's predicament sinks in, the true nature of each character begins to emerge. Tom, the general store owner, immediately takes charge, his years of experience as a volunteer firefighter kicking in. "We need search parties now," he barks, organizing the villagers into groups with military precision. Emily, the young schoolteacher, surprises everyone with her quick thinking. She grabs a map of the local trails from the community center wall and starts marking potential areas where John might be. Her knowledge of John's favorite spots, gleaned from casual conversations, suddenly becomes crucial. Mrs. Baker, despite her advanced age, insists on joining the search. "I've known these woods longer than most of you have been alive," she says firmly, her eyes flashing with determination. Her presence serves as a living link to the area's history, a reminder of why preserving this land matters so much. Sarah Thompson finds herself at a crossroads. The developer in her sees this crisis as a potential opportunity, proof that the area needs better infrastructure and emergency services. But the human in her is genuinely concerned for John's well-being. She hesitates for a moment before offering her SUV and its state-of-the-art GPS system to aid in the search, a decision that doesn't go unnoticed by the villagers. Max, exhausted but driven by unwavering loyalty, leads one of the search parties back into the forest. His keen senses and intimate knowledge of John's routines make him an invaluable guide. As they trek deeper into the woods, following Max's lead, the search party members begin to see the forest through new eyes, not as a resource to be exploited, but as a living entity that John had always described. As night falls and the search intensifies, the lines between opponents and allies blur. The shared goal of finding John unites the community in ways that seemed impossible just hours ago. In this moment of crisis, each character is forced to confront their true values and the depths of their connections to one another and to the land they call home. As the search for John intensifies, the rescue teams face a series of daunting challenges. The dense forest, once a sanctuary, now becomes a formidable obstacle. Thick underbrush and steep terrain slow their progress, while the encroaching darkness makes navigation treacherous. The searchers' flashlights cast eerie shadows, transforming familiar landscapes into alien territory. Tom leads one of the search parties, his face etched with worry. He knows that every minute counts in a situation like this. "John's asthma has always been bad," he mutters to Emily, as they push through a particularly dense thicket. "If he's having an attack out here..." Emily nods grimly, her earlier optimism fading as the reality of the situation sinks in. She clutches the map tighter, second-guessing her initial assumptions about John's location. The weight of responsibility bears down on her young shoulders. Meanwhile, Sarah Thompson finds herself in unfamiliar territory, both literally and figuratively. Her designer boots, ill-suited for the rough terrain, slow her down. More significantly, she grapples with an internal struggle. Every step through the pristine forest that she had planned to develop fills her with a growing sense of unease. The trees, which hours ago she saw as mere obstacles to progress, now seem to whisper ancient secrets. As if sensing her conflicted thoughts, Mrs. Baker, who insisted on joining Sarah's group, begins to share stories of the forest's history. She speaks of Native American healing rituals, of pioneers who survived harsh winters thanks to the forest's bounty, and of John's decades-long work in preserving traditional herbal knowledge. Her words paint a vivid picture of a living, breathing ecosystem intertwined with human history. Max, leading another group, suddenly stops and whines, his tail drooping. The dog seems confused, circling an area where John's scent is strong but finding no sign of his master. The search party members exchange worried glances, realizing that John may have moved or been moved from where he initially collapsed. Adding to the tension, dark clouds gather overhead, threatening rain. The weather forecast, hastily checked on a smartphone with spotty reception, warns of an approaching storm system. The prospect of rain not only threatens to wash away any traces of John's trail, but also poses additional risks to the searchers themselves. As if on cue, a distant rumble of thunder echoes through the valley. The rescue teams must now race against not just time and darkness, but also the impending storm. The once serene forest transforms into an arena where human determination clashes with the raw power of nature. Back in the village, those too young or old to join the search anxiously await news. The community center becomes a hub of activity, with volunteers coordinating supplies and maintaining communication as best they can with the search parties. The atmosphere is thick with worry, hope, and a growing realization of how much John means to everyone. As the night wears on, the search parties face escalating challenges. The promised storm arrives with a vengeance, unleashing sheets of rain that reduce visibility to mere feet. Lightning illuminates the sky in brief, terrifying flashes, followed by deafening thunder that seems to shake the very ground. The searchers, already exhausted, now battle not only fatigue, but also the elements. Tom's group, soaked to the bone, struggles to maintain their bearings. Emily's map, once so crucial, is now a sodden, illegible mess. They huddle under a large oak, debating whether to press on or retreat. "John would never give up on any of us," Tom says grimly, his voice barely audible over the howling wind. With renewed determination, they push forward into the tempest. Sarah's team faces a different kind of obstacle. As they navigate a particularly treacherous slope, Mrs. Baker slips, twisting her ankle. Sarah, surprising even herself, quickly moves to support the older woman. "We can't leave her behind," Sarah insists, helping Mrs. Baker to her feet. This moment of compassion doesn't go unnoticed by the others, who begin to see Sarah in a new light. Meanwhile, Max's keen senses are challenged by the storm. The rain washes away scents, and the howling wind confuses his hearing. The dog whimpers in frustration, torn between his instinct to find John and his inability to pick up the trail. The search party members with him start to lose hope, their faith in the dog's abilities wavering. Back at the village, a new crisis emerges. The heavy rain has caused the nearby river to swell rapidly, threatening to flood low-lying areas, including the road that serves as the main access to the forest. Emergency services, finally alerted to the situation, warn that they may not be able to reach the area if the flooding worsens. This news sends a wave of panic through those coordinating the search efforts. In the forest, the searchers now face a terrible dilemma. The rising water levels make certain areas increasingly dangerous to navigate. They must balance the urgent need to find John with the very real risk to their own lives. Some voices begin to suggest calling off the search until the storm passes, a notion that others vehemently oppose. As if the situation wasn't dire enough, one of the search parties stumbles upon fresh evidence of illegal logging, newly cut stumps and abandoned equipment. This discovery adds another layer of complexity to the unfolding drama, hinting at hidden conflicts and interests that may have played a role in the night's events. The challenges seem insurmountable: a raging storm, rising floodwaters, exhaustion, and now the specter of illegal activities in the forest. Each obstacle tests not only the physical endurance of the searchers, but also their moral resolve and the strength of their community bond. As the night reaches its darkest hour, the true mettle of each character is put to the ultimate test. As the storm rages on, each character's true nature emerges through their actions and reactions to the escalating crisis. Emily, initially shaken by the loss of her map, quickly adapts. She starts creating mental markers, using distinctive trees and rock formations to maintain their orientation. Her quick thinking impresses the older members of her group, who begin to look to her for guidance. Sarah, still supporting Mrs. Baker, surprises herself with her own resilience. The physical challenge of helping the older woman through the treacherous terrain awakens something in her, a strength she didn't know she possessed. "We're going to get through this together," she reassures Mrs. Baker, her voice firm with newfound determination. Max, frustrated by the loss of scent, changes tactics. Instead of trying to track John's specific smell, he begins leading his group towards areas where he and John frequently walked. His actions demonstrate a level of problem-solving that astonishes the humans with him, reinforcing the deep bond between the dog and his owner. Back in the village, the community springs into action. Those who couldn't join the search organize a relief effort, preparing dry clothes, hot food, and first aid supplies for when the searchers return. This spontaneous mobilization showcases the village's strong community spirit, a stark contrast to the earlier divisions over the development project. As the search parties converge at the rendezvous point, a moment of shared vulnerability unfolds. Soaked, muddy, and exhausted, they find strength in each other's presence. There's a palpable shift in the group dynamic. Former opponents now stand shoulder to shoulder, united in their concern for John and their determination to overcome the challenges before them. As the search parties regroup, a new plan emerges. Tom, taking charge, suggests dividing into smaller, more agile teams. "We'll cover more ground, but stay in constant communication," he explains, distributing the few walkie-talkies they have. His decisive leadership provides a sense of direction amidst the chaos. Emily, inspired by her earlier success with mental mapping, proposes a grid search pattern. She quickly sketches a rough map in the mud, assigning each team a specific area. Her innovative thinking earns nods of approval from the group, boosting her confidence. Sarah, still supporting Mrs. Baker, makes a difficult decision. "I'll take Mrs. Baker back to the village," she announces. "She needs medical attention, and I can bring back more supplies." This selfless act, prioritizing the group's needs over her personal goal of finding John, marks a significant shift in how others perceive her. As Sarah and Mrs. Baker prepare to leave, the older woman grabs Sarah's hand. "John always said this forest had a way of changing people," she says softly. "I think he was right." This moment of connection deeply affects Sarah, further challenging her previous stance on the development project. Max, reunited with the larger group, becomes agitated as a faint rumble of thunder echoes in the distance. His reaction sparks an idea in Tom. "The old fire tower," he exclaims. "It's the highest point for miles. If John was looking for shelter..." The group latches onto this possibility, a new surge of hope energizing their tired bodies. As the teams disperse to continue the search with renewed purpose, there's a palpable sense of transformation. The shared ordeal has broken down barriers, creating unlikely alliances and bringing out hidden strengths in each individual. Back in the village, Sarah arrives with Mrs. Baker, greeted by a flurry of activity. As she helps coordinate the relief efforts, Sarah finds herself deeply moved by the community's unity and resilience. She begins to see the village and its surroundings not just as a potential development site, but as a living, breathing community with a rich history and uncertain future. As dawn breaks, the storm begins to subside, but the tension reaches its peak. The search parties, led by Tom and guided by Max, converge on the old fire tower. The structure looms ahead, a skeletal silhouette against the lightening sky. Hope and dread mingle in equal measure as they approach. Tom, his voice hoarse from hours of shouting, calls out, "John, can you hear us?" The group falls silent, straining to hear any response over the diminishing rain and their own pounding hearts. For a moment, there's nothing but the drip of water from leaves and the distant rumble of thunder. Suddenly, Max's ears perk up. With a sharp bark, he darts towards the base of the tower. The searchers rush after him, their exhaustion forgotten in this moment of potential breakthrough. As they draw closer, a faint sound becomes audible, a weak, wheezing cough. "He's here!" Emily cries out, her voice cracking with emotion. The group surges forward, only to be stopped short by the sight that greets them. John lies crumpled at the base of the tower, his face ashen and his breathing labored. He's alive, but barely. Tom immediately takes charge of the situation. "We need to get him to a hospital fast," he barks, his firefighter training kicking in. But as the group prepares to move John, a new challenge presents itself. The rain-swollen river has completely cut off the main road out of the forest. Emily, thinking quickly, remembers the emergency helicopter service that occasionally assists with wilderness rescues. But the nearest landing zone is miles away. She realizes aloud, her hope faltering. At that moment, Sarah's voice crackles over the walkie-talkie. She's made it back to the search area with supplies and news. The flood has receded enough for emergency vehicles to get through, she reports. But they can't make it all the way into the forest. We need to get John to the main road. The group exchanges worried glances. Moving John in his condition is risky, but waiting for help to reach them might prove fatal. As they debate their options, John stirs, his eyes fluttering open. "The plants," he wheezes, gesturing weakly towards his jacket pocket. Emily reaches in and pulls out a handful of crushed leaves and flowers, the very plants that triggered John's asthma attack. Among them is a sprig of the mysterious purple flower. John's eyes lock onto it, a mix of fear and recognition in his gaze. In this moment of crisis, the group faces a multifaceted dilemma. They must find a way to transport John safely while also unraveling the mystery of the plants that caused his condition. The weight of their decisions, quite literally, could mean life or death. As if to underscore the gravity of the situation, a distant rumble signals that the storm may not be over. Time is running out, and every choice now carries monumental consequences. The unity forged through the night is about to face its ultimate test. As the gravity of the situation sinks in, the group springs into action. Tom, taking charge, begins to construct a makeshift stretcher using branches and jackets. "We need to move him carefully," he instructs, his voice tense but steady. Any jarring could worsen his condition. Emily, her mind racing, examines the plants John had collected. Her eyes widen with recognition. "This purple flower," she gasps. "I've seen it in one of John's botany books. It's extremely rare and potentially toxic." She looks up, her face pale. "But it might also hold the key to helping him." Sarah, having joined the group, makes a bold decision. "My SUV is at the edge of the forest," she says. "If we can get John there, I can navigate the flooded roads." The others look at her with a mix of surprise and newfound respect. The journey through the forest becomes a harrowing test of endurance and teamwork. Each step is treacherous, the ground still slick from the rain. They take turns carrying the stretcher, their muscles screaming in protest, but their determination unwavering. Halfway to the forest's edge, disaster strikes. A weakened tree, its roots loosened by the storm, begins to topple directly in their path. Tom shouts a warning, and the group scrambles to protect John. In a display of unexpected strength, Sarah helps Tom brace the falling tree, giving the others precious seconds to move John to safety. As they near the forest's edge, John's breathing becomes more labored. Emily, drawing on her knowledge from first aid courses, realizes they need to elevate his upper body. Using her own backpack as a prop, she adjusts John's position, providing momentary relief. They finally reach Sarah's SUV, but their challenges are far from over. The usually calm river has transformed into a raging torrent, cutting across their only route to the hospital. Sarah grips the steering wheel, her knuckles white. "I can do this," she says, more to herself than the others. As they navigate the treacherous road, water lapping at the SUV's doors, the full weight of their shared experience hits them. Former adversaries are now united in a desperate bid to save a life. The forest, which hours ago was a battlefield of conflicting interests, has become a crucible, forging unlikely alliances. John drifts in and out of consciousness in the back of the vehicle. In a moment of lucidity, he grasps Emily's hand. "The flowers," he whispers, "they're the key. Promise me, you'll protect them." His words hang in the air, laden with significance that extends far beyond his immediate survival. As they approach the rendezvous point with the emergency services, the group realizes that this crisis has irrevocably changed them all. The outcome of this race against time will not only determine John's fate, but also the future of their community and the forest they've come to see through new eyes. As the SUV screeches to a halt at the rendezvous point, paramedics swarm around John, quickly assessing his condition. In the chaos of the moment, Emily clutches the mysterious purple flower, remembering John's cryptic words. She hesitates, then makes a split-second decision to slip it into her pocket, unseen by the others. While John is being loaded into the ambulance, a new figure emerges from the crowd, Dr. Laura Chen, a renowned botanist from the State University. "I came as soon as I heard," she says, her eyes scanning the group. "John and I have been corresponding about a potentially groundbreaking discovery." Dr. Chen nods gravely. He wanted to keep it quiet until he was certain. John believed he had found a new species of plant with extraordinary medicinal properties, one that could revolutionize asthma treatment. Suddenly, the illegal logging equipment they had stumbled upon during the search takes on a sinister new significance. Emily, her hand unconsciously moving to her pocket where the flower is hidden, connects the dots. "Someone must have found out about John's discovery," she says, her voice trembling. Indeed, as the group processes this startling information, they realize that their ordeal is far from over. The race to save John's life has unexpectedly transformed into something much bigger, a battle to protect not just their community, but potentially a medical breakthrough that could help millions. The revelation about John's discovery sends shockwaves through the group, forcing each of them to reassess their roles in the unfolding drama. Sarah, visibly shaken, steps away from the others. Her internal conflict is palpable as she grapples with the implications of her development plans in light of this new information. Tom, ever the protector, immediately shifts into crisis management mode. "We need to secure the area," he declares, already reaching for his phone to contact local authorities. "If someone's after this plant, they might come back." Emily, feeling the weight of the purple flower in her pocket, realizes she's now carrying a secret that could change everything. She catches Dr. Chen's eye and, after a moment's hesitation, pulls out the plant. "John gave this to me," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "He said it was the key." Dr. Chen's eyes widen in recognition. She carefully takes the flower, examining it with a mixture of awe and concern. "This is it," she breathes. "The missing piece of John's research. But it's not just a new species. It's a hybrid. That's why it's so rare and potentially dangerous." As the group huddles around Dr. Chen, hanging on her every word, Max suddenly becomes agitated. The dog's ears perk up, and he starts growling towards the forest edge. Tom, alert to the change, scans the tree line. "We're not alone," he warns, his voice low and urgent. In that moment, the true complexity of their situation becomes clear. They're no longer just a group of neighbors who came together to save a friend. They've stumbled into the center of a much larger conflict, one that involves corporate interests, scientific breakthroughs, and the fate of their entire community. As sirens wail in the distance, signaling the approach of more authorities, each member of the group faces a critical decision. How far are they willing to go to protect John's discovery, their community, and each other? Tom takes the lead in organizing round-the-clock patrols of the area where the rare plant was found. Volunteers from the village, once divided over the development project, now work side by side to guard their forest. The illegal logging equipment is seized by authorities, and an investigation is launched to uncover who was behind the operation. Sarah, in a surprising turn of events, announces the withdrawal of her development plans. In a heartfelt town hall meeting, she explains, "I came here seeing only the potential for economic growth, but these past few days have shown me the true value of this land and this community." Her decision is met with a mix of relief and respect from the villagers. Emily, working closely with Dr. Chen, becomes instrumental in documenting and studying the rare plant species. Her quick thinking in preserving the sample John had collected proves crucial to the research. the young schoolteacher finds herself at the forefront of a potentially groundbreaking scientific discovery, igniting a passion for botany she never knew she had. As news of the discovery spreads, the village faces a new challenge, balancing the need for scientific research with the preservation of their forest and way of life. The community, strengthened by their shared ordeal, approaches this challenge with a newfound sense of unity and purpose. As John's condition stabilizes, he becomes an active participant in the unfolding events from his hospital bed. His years of research and deep connection to the forest prove invaluable in guiding the conservation efforts. Working with Dr. Chen and Emily, he helps develop a sustainable plan for studying and protecting the rare plant species without disturbing the delicate ecosystem. The village's united front attracts positive attention from environmental groups and ethical pharmaceutical companies. A partnership is formed to study the plant's medicinal properties, with the promise that any benefits will be shared with the community and used for the greater good. This agreement ensures that the village will benefit from the discovery while maintaining control over their land. Sarah, inspired by the community's resilience, redirects her business acumen towards ecotourism. She works with Tom and other locals to develop low-impact hiking trails and educational programs, allowing visitors to appreciate the forest's beauty and learn about its importance without endangering the fragile ecosystem. Mrs. Baker, recovered from her injury, becomes a local celebrity. Her stories of the forest's history and John's lifelong work to protect it become part of the village's new narrative, attracting interested visitors and researchers alike. As the dust settles, the village finds itself transformed. The threat of overdevelopment has been replaced by a model of conservation and sustainable progress. The community, once at risk of being torn apart, is now stronger than ever, united by their shared experience and common goal of protecting their precious forest. As the village settles into its new reality, the emotional impact of their shared ordeal begins to surface. John's return home from the hospital becomes a catalyst for a profound outpouring of community sentiment. The day of John's homecoming dawns bright and clear. As he's driven through the village, escorted by Tom and Max, he's met with cheering crowds lining the streets. Handmade signs welcome him back, many adorned with drawings of the now famous purple flower. John, overwhelmed by the display, finds himself wiping away tears of gratitude. Emily, standing among the crowd with Dr. Chen, feels a swell of pride and purpose. Her role in preserving John's discovery has given her a new direction in life. As she watches her former teacher and now research partner wave to the villagers, she realizes how much she's grown in such a short time. Sarah, observing the scene from the sidelines, experiences a complex mix of emotions. The joy of seeing the community united is tinged with regret for her initial plans. Yet as several villagers warmly include her in the celebration, she feels a growing sense of acceptance and belonging. Tom, ever the stoic leader, finds his composure cracking as he helps John out of the car. The weight of the past few weeks, the fear, the exhaustion, the triumph, hits him all at once. In a rare display of vulnerability, he pulls John into a bear hug, much to the delight of the onlookers. Max, faithful as ever, stays close to John's side, his tail wagging furiously. The dog's unwavering loyalty throughout the ordeal has made him a symbol of devotion in the village, with many children asking to pet the hero dog. Mrs. Baker, hosting a welcome home gathering for John at her house, becomes the unexpected center of intergenerational bonding. Young and old alike gather around her, eager to hear her recount tales of the forest's history and her own part in the recent events. Her words weave a tapestry of connection between the village's past and its promising future. Emily finds herself becoming a mentor to the village children, who are now fascinated by the forest and its secrets. As she leads nature walks and botany lessons, she sees the spark of curiosity in their eyes that she once saw in her own reflection. This new role fills her with a sense of purpose and continuity. Sarah, still navigating her place in the community, experiences a profound moment during the gathering. As she helps serve refreshments, John takes her hand and thanks her for her part in his rescue. The simple gesture of forgiveness and gratitude moves Sarah deeply, cementing her commitment to her new path. Dale. Tom, watching the interactions around him, reflects on the transformation of his role in the village. Once seen primarily as the gruff store owner, he's now regarded as a community leader and protector. The weight of this responsibility sits differently on his shoulders, no longer a burden, but a source of pride. As the evening progresses, a spontaneous circle forms in Mrs. Baker's garden. Villagers of all ages join hands, with John and Max at the center. In this moment of unity, there's a palpable sense of healing, of old wounds mending and new bonds forming. As the sun sets on Mrs. Baker's garden, casting a warm glow over the gathered villagers, there's a sense of a new chapter beginning for the entire community. John, standing with the support of Tom and Max by his side, raises his voice to address the group. "Friends," he begins, his voice soft but carrying clearly in the hushed garden. "What we've been through has shown us the true value of what we have here. It's not just about a rare plant or a beautiful forest. It's about us, this community, our bond with nature, and the legacy we'll leave for future generations." His words resonate deeply with everyone present. Emily, her eyes shining with purpose, adds, "We've been given a chance to show the world how to balance progress and preservation. Our little village could become a model for others." As murmurs of agreement ripple through the crowd, Mrs. Baker speaks up, her voice carrying the weight of years. "We've always been stewards of this land," she says. "Now we have the chance to be stewards of a better future." The gathering concludes with a sense of hope and determination. As people begin to disperse, there are hugs, handshakes, and promises to meet again soon. The village, once at risk of being torn apart, has emerged stronger, more united, and with a clear sense of purpose. Indeed, in the weeks and months that follow, the village undergoes a remarkable transformation. The story of John's discovery and the community's united effort to protect their forest spreads far beyond the mountains of Montana, attracting attention from environmentalists, scientists, and sustainable development experts worldwide. The rare plant, now known as Anderson's Purple, in honor of John, becomes the centerpiece of groundbreaking asthma research. The village, in partnership with ethical pharmaceutical companies, ensures that any medical breakthroughs benefit those in need, regardless of their ability to pay. Sarah's ecotourism initiative flourishes, bringing sustainable economic growth to the area. Visitors come not just to see the famous plant, but to learn about conservation and community resilience. Tom's general store evolves into a hub for local artisans and organic products, showcasing the region's natural bounty. Emily, inspired by her experiences, pursues further education in botany and environmental science, determined to continue John's work. She sets up educational programs that connect local schools with research institutions, fostering a new generation of environmental stewards. The forest, once threatened by development, now thrives under the community's careful guardianship. It stands as a living testament to the power of unity, the importance of preserving natural habitats, and the profound impact that a small group of determined individuals can have on the world. 5 years later, John sits on his porch, Max dozing at his feet. He watches a group of children led by Emily, excitedly examining plants in his garden. Sarah and Tom chat nearby, discussing plans for the village's upcoming conservation festival. As the sun sets over the thriving forest, John smiles, knowing that the legacy of Anderson's Purple will continue to bloom for generations to come. Dear viewers, the story of John and his community reminds us that we all have a role in protecting our planet. Whether it's supporting local conservation efforts, making eco-friendly choices, or simply appreciating the nature around us, every action counts. Let's be inspired by Anderson's purple and work together to create a greener, more united world. What will your next step be?